What is the Canon Powershot G9X? Back in 2009, Canon revitalized the enthusiast compact camera market with the Powershot S90, a pocket-sized model with lots of external controls, raw format recording and above-average image quality. With its unusually fast f/1.8 aperture at wide angle and configurable round lens control dial, the design was widely imitated, and perhaps no more so than by the Sony Cybershot DSC-RX100 in 2012. But Sony's trump card was the addition of a 20 million pixel 1-in sensor giving vastly improved image quality, resulting in a dynasty of cameras that instantly eclipsed Canon's S series and triggered a wholesale shift towards fitting larger sensors into compacts. It took until 2014 for Canon to respond with the G7X, which with its 24 to 100 mm equivalent f/1.8 2.8 lens and 1-in sensor is a worthy, if not entirely successful pretender to the RX100 series crown. Then towards the end of 2015 Canon added two more models to its range, sitting above and below the G7X. We reviewed the high-end G5X in January and liked it for its SLR-like design, integrated electronic viewfinder and extensive controls. Now it's the G9X's turn in the spotlight, a lower-end model that has the distinction of being the slimmest camera with a 1-in sensor. Indeed, on the face of it, the G9X is the spiritual successor to the S series. It manages to squeeze a 20.2 million pixel 1-in sensor in a truly pocketable body that, at 98 x 57.9 x 30.8 mm and 209 grams in weight, is barely larger than the S120, the last model in the old line. In the current market, its closest competitor is the Sony Cybershot RX100 II, which despite being more than 2 years old is still widely available at a similar price. However, the G9X largely eschews the physical buttons found on its predecessors and main competitor in favor of substantially touchscreen-driven operation. This will, I suspect, strongly polarize opinions and put off many prospective users. But before we get into this too deeply, let's take a look at what the G9X has to offer. Canon Powershot G9X features. Like many recent fixed-lens compacts, including Canon's own G3X, G5X and G7X, the G9X is built around a 20.1 million pixel 1-in CMOS sensor. It offers a sensitivity range of ISO 125-12800, and files can be recorded in both JPEG and RAW formats. The 28 to 84 mm equivalent lens has a maximum aperture of f/24.9. While this looks impressively fast at wide angle, it drops off very quickly as you zoom, to f/2.8 at 35 mm equivalent, and f/4 at 50 mm. The lens includes a built-in 3-stop neutral density filter, which can be used for shooting with large apertures in bright light, or to slow down shutter speeds for increased motion blur in still images. Perhaps more importantly, it's also useful to convey a more natural impression of motion during movie recording. The ND filter can be engaged manually by the user, or set to auto so the camera can use it whenever necessary. Compared to other pocket cameras, though, the lens looks a little limited in terms of both range and aperture. For example, the Sony Cybershot RX100 II has a longer 28 to 100 mm equivalent f/1.8 4.9 zoom, and Canon's own G7X has a 24 to 100 mm equivalent f/1.8 2.8 lens that's both rangier and much faster. Essentially, this is the main trade-off Canon has made to achieve the G9X's slender frame. On a more positive note, the lens does at least offer the same range as the 18 to 55 mm kit zooms that come with most APS-C DSLRs. Canon Powershot G9X, build and handling. With its predominantly metal body shell and milled metal dials and controls, the G9X feels robust and well made. It looks good too, with Canon's signature subtle red accents around the mode dial and shutter button adding a touch of class. Our review sample was supplied in a rather handsome brown and silver finish, but a more sober all black is also available. In your hand, though, The feel is let down by the hard plastic used for the grip areas. I'd have preferred a softer rubberized finish. When it comes to shooting with the G9X, it very quickly becomes apparent that this is a very different animal to the old S-series models, or the higher-end G7X. While the control dial around the lens and the conventional exposure mode dial are present and correct, the back of the camera is quite different. Most importantly, the combined D-pad and rear dial has gone, with a simple column of 4 buttons taking its place. By default, the top button activates video recording, although its function can be changed when shooting stills. Those below it access the main menu and on-screen quick menu, and cycle through information display modes. Almost all settings are changed using the touchscreen in conjunction with the round lens control dial. Main exposure settings, shutter speed, aperture, ISO and exposure compensation, are changed by tapping their on-screen touch buttons and rotating the dial. Alternatively, tapping another on-screen button placed within easy reach of your right thumb cycles the dial's function through controlling each in turn. Most other functions require press of the Q menu button, at which point the required setting can be selected using the touch screen, and changed either by touch or using the lens dial. Other on-screen buttons are used to lock exposure lock, activate manual focus or turn on the touch